Welcome everybody to the fourth video on the Kingsong S20. Where do I kick off? Well, let's kick off on the road, because that's what you're looking at right now. And as I've said before, the tyre rolls and rides really smooth. So obviously you can mess around with tyre pressures and things like that to get your optimum feel for what you actually want. But it rides really nice. As you can see here, there is no rear light whilst you're riding along. All you get is the brake light you see there, and also you get the indicator light for when you're turning left or right, but it is incredibly sensitive, so you just do a little lean left or right and it's going to indicate, so it's not that great. And as you just witnessed there, even when if you're braking and turning, you don't see the indicator, which is a slight problem, but you can see it flashing away there. I don't think most people take any attention to that anyway, other road users, so probably not worth mentioning that too much. It's not much of a feature. The rear light you can actually get to come on in a different animation mode when you've got the front lights switched on. So if you switch the front lights on, you get rear running lights, I'll call them for now. So when you're going along, it's not just off, it actually displays a flashing red, as you see in the video. Otherwise, they're off if you have the headlights off. I've tried loads of different ways, can't get it to come on unless that's on. And the brake light always works. So road, it runs real sweet, no problem whatsoever. Also, worth mentioning that I've been able to ride along at a steady 60 kilometers an hour, no issues for like 30 minutes. I've also tried slightly higher than that, running at 65 kilometers an hour, and that's worked brilliantly as well. So it's coped with the higher end speeds. I don't take it up to 70. I have hit it just literally on to check if it did it, and it did, but I'm not comfortable riding that sort of speed when it's right up to its upper limit. You should never really ride a wheel, irrespective of what they advertise it as, at its upper, because you leave no margin for error. You hit a pothole, hit an incline, you can easily get like either shut off or tip forward on any wheel. I haven't had those issues because I haven't taken it up to its absolute maximum for any sustained period of time. But 65 kilometers an hour, sustained period of time. And also 60 I've tested out with no issues at all. It doesn't get hot, it handles it perfectly fine. So on the road it handles really well. Those actual side pads that you see on the side of the wheel, those really help with accelerating and braking. You could just lean into them, it works well, along with the spiked foot plates. So if it's raining, it does help you actually brake and accelerate. And then nice big foot plates as well. So it's a lot of control while on the road. It sits on the road really nicely. And obviously, because of suspension, it can cope with the potholes. So if you're a commuter, this is going to be big and bulky to carry around and put on the tube, on the train, and carry into a bus or whatever. But actually, when you're riding the thing, really good. Trolley handle, not so much. But when you're riding it, really good. Sits nice and solid. So there we are. Hope that kind of gives you an insight. Again, if you haven't seen the previous videos, go back and watch them. Don't watch this video thinking this is a conclusive review, because it's catching up with what's already been said, the foundations that have been built in the previous videos. So go back to the first one, have a look at it, the big one, and then follow those along until you get back to this one. Otherwise, you're going to miss some information out. But road, definitely a thumbs up from me. Really enjoy going out on this wheel. This S20, I actually look forward to it. Can't wait for it to be charged up. Again, the only thing it lets it down really, but it's pretty, considering all our testing we do on all loads of different wheels, is actually its watt hour per miles is very similar than other wheels. I would just love it if this had like a 3,500, 4,000 watt hour battery pack in it, just so I could go out for sort of 60 miles with no issues. So that's the only thing, is I do look forward to riding it, but with a limited range of around about 30 miles. It's like, oh, come on. But it does charge quickly with the 5 amp charger, and it has 2 charge ports as well. So I could charge at 10 amps for super rapid recharging and getting back out there. But that's what I've got to say on that, really. Let's have a now look at the old off-road.
Right, wait, Bruce. I'm gonna go and hunt for a drone. This has gone miles over here. If you hear about the Skydio 2 and the beacon, it's okay, but what you'll find is when it goes to GPS mode, it just flies off. There she is there. You know, this isn't a review of the Skydio, but these are the hassles and the pains of the ass I have to go through just to film a video. So I'm gonna try and get it back to me now. So it shoots off, like it shot off then, as you will see, miles, because it thought it was tracking me. But no, awful. So for tracking, hello Brucey, the beacon is pretty awful. They won't acknowledge it, to be fair. I have talked about it a lot and they're like, no, it's really good. It's amazing. It is once it's tracking you. When it's on GPS, it's awful.
So here we are with the off-road part of this review. So it's just a bit of a catch-up really. I've already discussed a lot of this. The tyre handles exceptionally well. I do really like this tyre. Now that's not specific to the S20. You know, you could fit this on other wheels, but it just clears the mud out really quick. So if you're going through a heavy lot of off-roading, just one revolution a lot of the time will chuck a lot of the mud out that's got trapped in there. Whereas the experience I've had with other off-road tyres is it gets gunged up and it loses most of its traction. This isn't the case with this tyre, so it's done really well. The actual way that it accelerates off-road is completely acceptable in terms of torque with the side pads. So if you didn't have the side pads, you would really pay a price. Essentially, you could not get enough leverage over this wheel. But with those side pads, being able to lean right into them and accelerate out is a bit of a godsend, really, in terms of torque and braking ability at the same time. I've found myself positioning my feet, because the side pads are glued in place. They're not adjustable per se if you use them as standard at the box. I've actually found myself putting my feet slightly further forward on the foot plates, and that then of course puts your shins in a better position to lean into those pads. I've found myself doing that to get that extra bit of leverage out of the old girl, and that's worked perfectly fine. Of course, you're slightly away from getting the full amount of braking power that you might want, but it's sufficed, and I've not found it lacking at all in the off-road department. Now, some of the stuff I've been riding through recently over this 650 kilometers is horrendous stuff. We've been having rainfall week on week, so the ground is just horrible to ride in. And in other wheels, there's areas where I would definitely have come off. Again, it's mostly down to the tyre. It's also to do with machine weight, so it's digging in a lot more, because it's not exactly a light machine, is it? It's not the heaviest, but it's not the lightest either. So those two combined work really well. The other thing to mention is the foot plate height is a really good height. I found myself not hitting the foot plates at all. I've actually got damage on them. That is because I've fallen off it, or it's slid off, or someone else has fallen off it and scuffed them as they folded up. So yeah, from that point of view, the height of them is really good, and it just keeps you clear of everything. Essentially, I've not hit them. I've not found myself hitting them at all, so that's really good. The grip on them, even when you've got really muddy, soaking wet feet, has been spot on. That issue I mentioned in the first review about the honeycomb, I do get wet inside of my shoe, so that the left hand side of my right foot and the right hand side of my left foot, it splashes up and it soaks the inside of your foot. So I've got around that by wearing waterproof socks. You could take another spare pair of shoes with you if you were commuting in, for example. Thankfully, a lot of this time I'm not commuting. I do try and fit the videos in whilst I'm commuting, just to try and crunch the miles in, because otherwise it's quite difficult to go out and just do that. So like running Bruce the Husky, that's part of my routine anyhow. But if you're expecting to have dry feet on this, which I usually would with just standard foot plates, the honeycomb does let the water spray up over your foot. So wear waterproof socks or waterproof shoes, or take a spare pair with you, basically. But moving on to the amount of dirt and stuff I've got over this wheel, I've absolutely caked this thing. I didn't clean it until about 600 kilometers in, just to let it sort of rest with that soil all over it, that earth all over it. And I found that nothing hinders it at all, really. It doesn't gather massively in certain places. There was a whole section of leaves and sort of clay mud that got stuck, and it was hanging off the back of the mudguard where the stand is. But other than that, it's fine. It clears it out nice and rapidly. It doesn't get stuck in there. Little bits and bobs do. If you're in real clay soil, then you're going to get that issue. But like normal riding, unless you're doing something mental like I've been doing and we've had terrible weather combined, then it can kind of gather in certain areas, but not to its detriment, I would have said. There's plenty of other wheels I've tested where it just gets gunked up. You need to stop, get off, and then bang it up and down by sort of picking it up and dropping it just from like 20 centimeters, keep banging it over and over and over again to get it to drop out. Otherwise it doesn't ride properly and it grinds and things like that. I've not had that with this at all. So that's been really, really good. So the main plus point really to take home from this is the power delivery and the grip combined, along with the not the foot plates, well, foot plates as well, but the side pads is what kind of brings this all together off-road. So just like with the on-road, the off-road, I just love going out on it. Just bombing around these trails. You can lean into a corner, as long as you're judging it correctly, for one. But it's gripping in other places where other wheels definitely have not been able to come off. So this is done really, really well. So I actually look forward to it, riding off-road. If you're in heavy wooded areas, you're going to get the front lights coming on with the auto on and off. You can turn that off if you really wanted to in the app. I haven't. I found it actually 9 times out of 10 it's working spot on for exactly what you want. The mud does get in up by the light units, so you need to wash them down. I say I haven't for 650 and it operated fine. They're so bright, those front lights, that it glares through any mud splash, but you do get it if you're doing extreme off-road around the roundabout light units, and it does make adjusting them so you can lean down whilst you're riding. Pretty dangerous, but I've been doing that to adjust the light beam, especially if heading out onto the road. You can adjust it up or down, so I've been doing that, but I found that the mud gets in the way sometimes, so it sort of gets stuck if you hit it. So close it up to its full position, so flat against the side, and then pull it back out and it works fine. So a little bit of dirt ingress in there, but I'm talking extreme off-road. Again, when I say these things, we're talking about like the range that I get on it is the worst range you're going to get. People are taking that as like, oh, that's the range you're going to get. No, you're going to get more range than that. And it's the same with this. If you leave it caked up with mud and you ride in ridiculous off-road conditions regularly, these things are little snag points to note. But it's also worth saying, and we'll see when we get to the 1,000 kilometer review, not got any motor noise at all. So those bearings have held up really well so far. There's other ones that, you take them through some of the stuff that we've experienced with this bad weather, they would have got grit in those bearings and would be making a noise. This so far is a thumbs up. It's not making a noise and it's running as smooth as. So yeah, again, really, really enjoying it. There's not really a lot else to say. It works on-road, it works off-road, really, really good. But pretty much the main thing would be the range. I'd love it if it just did more, but that's a physical impossibility. If it had 4,000 watt hours of battery, yeah, we could. I would like this to be like Sherman-esque in its range, and in its abilities. But of course it'd be a lot heavier, so you've got to kind of weigh those things against each other and work out what you want. The faster charging, having 2 chargers would definitely get you back on the road twice as quick, and that might actually make it a more usable machine for me personally, because I do such a huge amount of miles. So trying to get the 1,000 kilometers on, you really want to be doing 50-60 miles a day, and that makes this a little bit more challenging, shall we say. I've found the trolley handle, again I'll reapproach that, not to be brilliant, especially off-road. Like a super strong forearm to keep that thing upright across slippy ground whilst you're trying to walk at the same time. So a bit of a thumbs down on the trolley handle's positioning. It'd be nice if it arced across the whole machine. Not 100% sure. So yeah, that is definitely worth. You need to play about that. I would definitely practice that before you think you just pull it up like a normal trolley handle. Its positioning and its weight distribution is a strange position. One thing it's been really, really useful is the stand. That's not let me down at all. That has just been working flawlessly. So thumbs up for the stand design. Just, you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to push anything out with 8 foot or anything like that. It's just always there, always available. Switch off the machine, lean it back, and it works perfectly. It's never got stuck. Even with all that mud hanging off it, it's worked spot on. Again, this is the 4th video, so there's not a lot more to say. So if you have any questions, write them in the comment section below. There's also a thread on electricpeople.org. If you've got your S20 already, then it would definitely be worthwhile installing Map My Ride, which is what I use to track my range, as well as the onboard computer on the vehicle itself, and just check your journey, see your elevation, see how far you get, and your average speed. It's a great way of monitoring it, and then using the same software as I'm using. So theoretically, you're going to get pretty much same like-for-like results, and you can check out the journey. So electricpeople.org, go and sign up there. Join in that conversation. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell notification to get updated, and share this video. So questions below. I'll try, can't guarantee I will, but I'll try and answer as many as I possibly can. And any other questions, let me know, and I'll follow up in the 1,000-kilometer review, where hopefully we can finalize this whole thing and we can move on to the next wheel. So I'll see you guys on the next one.